Welcome back to the Beast Speak blog. This is a series where I tell you what the Beast has been saying to me and how I overcame it. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the Beast is your addictive voice, the AV and AVRT of rational recovery. If you can recognize that beast, then you can separate yourself from your urges, and that can result in immediate and lifelong abstinence. If you want to learn more about rational recovery or how to do AVRT, I'll link Virginia's story in the description box below. You can check that out. It's a good place to get started. There's an old fashioned notion that children were treated poorly in the past. You hear that old adage, children should be seen and not heard? That's attributed to a bygone age. I'm not sure I believe that was ever really as pervasive as they want you to think. As I sit here watching the world rewrite history in real time, I'm suspicious of everything I'm told nowadays, especially something about the past that I haven't witnessed myself personally. So there's this idea of a very punitive family structure. The parent was the tyrant, and the child was the slave. As we try to throw off the vestiges of a former age, we're seeing a more permissive, chaotic world. Chaos plagues you when you try to abandon the tyrant slave dynamic. With prosecutors declining to enforce charges and no bail arrests, which let the perpetrators right back on the streets the same day, sometimes within hours. So we're going from a tyrannical structure to a permissive one. If we truly want to throw off the establishment and not cycle back and forth and get stuck in that cycle between chaos and tyranny, we have to become functional adults and teach our children the skills they need to become functional adults. I'm reading a beautiful book right now by Becky Bailey called Conscious Discipline. And it's all about teaching your children how to communicate in a way that gets their needs met and makes them functional adults, basically. And she talks about the three voices that you have. There's passive, aggressive, and assertive. And what you want to develop is the assertive skills. But the passive is when you want somebody to fill your needs without you actually asking them. And the aggressive, we know what aggressive is, but when you use the aggressive voice, afterwards you feel guilty, so you cycle back to more passivity. We get stuck cycling between passivity and aggressiveness, and the voice is trying to get our needs met in a similar way to what Marshall Rosenberg says, that bad behavior is a strategy to get needs met, either pro-social needs or substitute maladaptive needs like bullying, which can be a release for the pain of rejection, or yelling as a form of anesthesia. It can either be maladaptive or maybe there's just a skill that hasn't been learned yet. So she demonstrates beautifully how to have an assertive voice and get your needs met versus cycling back and forth between passive and aggressive, passive and aggressive. The same way we cycle between slave and master, slave and tyrant, slave and tyrant. But when we throw off the tyrant-slave dichotomy, the old establishment becomes the enemy. And this new permissive, chaotic society, like the one we're seeing today, wants to punish the former things. And it becomes tyrannical itself. And in that way, it's called democracy. The founding fathers were afraid of democracy because what happens is the majority is used against the individual, and they're not protected, like in the Reign of Terror in the French Revolution. Excuse me. So I was watching this movie from a few years back called Conspiracy on HBO. It's an HBO film about the Wannsee Conference, and one Nazi is telling, at the end of the movie, one Nazi is telling another Nazi a story, and they had just been in the meeting formulating the extermination of the Jews. And the story goes like this: an old man hated his father and loved his mother. When his mother died, he feels at peace, and he tries to cry at the funeral, but he can't. But when his father died, he cried bitterly. The object of his hatred had shaped his whole life, and now he had no meaning. I'll link to the video before the video in the description box. So if you look at the chart that I have up on the picture, it shows the tyrant-slave cycle. We know that the beast can put us into a tyrant-slave cycle, so that's also like a microcosm of the macrocosm that we're seeing in the world today. So I've got the little arrow down that indicates escape. And when we first escape from the tyrant-slave cycle, you can either go permissive and chaotic, like what we're seeing now, but when things get too chaotic, a strong man will rise up and you go right back, promising peace and stability, and the tyrant, it goes right back to the tyrant slave cycle. So if you escape but then go to a permissive and chaotic world, it's not going to last. But if you escape from the tyrant slave cycle and you go to empowered adults, then you can have sustained liberty and lived values. And rational recovery teaches you how to be an empowered adult by knowing which voice in your head is your enemy and listening to the voice of your conscience. You can truly escape from the tyrant slave cycle and become empowered adults. So, the hallmark of an adult is doing what needs to be done despite the voice telling you not to do it. And rational recovery is a powerful tool because it teaches you the frame of mind that can help you resist the urges and rule yourself and get yourself free of the back and forth. Rule yourself, defeat the beast. Please join me again for more rational recovery content and the Beast Speak blog. Thank you.